Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. We have people from all over the globe, it appears. I'm Stephanie Desmond, co-chair of the Summit Communication Subcommittee and Director of PR and Marketing at the Johns Hopkins Center for Communication Programs. We are thrilled to have such a great turnout for this webinar, and we hope you are as excited as we are to be part of the 2022 International SBCC Summit from December 5th through 9th in Marrakesh, Morocco. This morning, we welcome you all, and we understand that many of you are new to the summit, so we will hopefully be able to answer all your questions. So this morning, next slide, we are going to, I apologize.
Hello, yeah, I apologize. I'm Camila, the Spanish interpreter. I have been kicked out of the meeting and I need to be put in the booth again, please.
Should I continue? Okay.
Would you please just put me in the booth? I'm Camila, I'm the Spanish interpreter.
Emily, could you put Camila back in the booth?
Sure. Marla, could you make me the host and then I'll do that for you.
Am I ready to continue yet?
Yes, all good.
Okay, thank you very much. So this morning, we are going to give you an overview of the summit and overarching themes, tips to create a competitive proposal, guidance on the submission process, and key deadlines. We will answer questions at the end. So I'll see you all are introducing yourself in the chat, but you can send questions in the Q&A box. We will also try to answer any unanswered questions on the Summit website. And you can post your questions in English, Spanish, French, or Arabic. And we will be sending you the webinar recording and the slides when we're all done here. Next. Just a couple of words about translation and how it works. Please look at the bottom of your Zoom screen and locate the globe icon that says interpretation. And please select your preferred language, English, French, Spanish, or Arabic. If you choose French, Spanish, or Arabic, you can click to, quote, mute the original sound if you don't want to hear English narration in the background. Next slide. Our first speaker today is Mimi Sekamana from Rwanda, a rising star in SBCC and one of the summit's youth champions. She's also a member of the Insights and Outputs subcommittee. We are so excited to have Mimi with us today. Mimi?
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. As Stephanie mentioned, my name is Mireille Mutonisekamana, and I'm a design researcher and a youth champion for the 2022 International Social and Behavioral Change Summit from Rwanda. We expect the summit to be the largest gathering of its kind, bringing together people from all sectors and from all over the world to share their SBCC experiences. What I love about the summit is that it gives us the opportunity to learn about the latest SBCC research, innovation, and implementation around the world. And it welcomes those who have been in the field for decades, as well as those of us who are newer to it. Not only is it an opportunity for education and reflection, but it is also a chance to hear directly from the leaders in the field, listen to fascinating speakers with big new ideas, and meet others we might not otherwise encounter. The first SBCC summit was held in Ethiopia in 2016, and the second one, almost twice its size, took place in 2018 in Indonesia. As we get revved up for the 2022 summit, scheduled for December in Morocco, today you will receive valuable information to help you submit an abstract or proposal. We are hoping for a diverse set of proposals from a diverse set of topics, from health to climate crisis to youth. And we are seeking submissions from all over the world, including Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Next slide. I'm here today to represent the youth voices. As a youth champion, I'm one of the youth who have been selected to set the summit's youth agenda to make sure that our expertise, experiences, and perspectives remain part of the dialogue. Who knows how to reach young people better than other young people, right? Why is this important to me? As a young person, I will get to take part in ensuring that the program includes young people's voices and get to learn from the experiences of those who have been in the field for decades. I will also get to hear about the latest research, innovations, and how young people can be included. And lastly, I'm looking forward to seeing the youth activities coming to life and working together to shape the future of social and behavioral change communications. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Mimi. That was terrific. Next up is Doug Story. He's the Director for Communication Science and Research at CCP and an Associate Professor at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. He co-chairs the program subcommittee for the 2022 SBCC Summit. Doug?
There we go. I had to unmute myself. Greetings, everyone. We're really glad that you're here. What I will share with you today is some information about the conference themes, the proposal formats, and what reviewers will be looking for when they review your proposals. Every submission in all different formats will receive at least 3 blind reviews, regardless of format, meaning that reviewers will not know who had submitted the abstract, and they will focus only on its content. Now, the first thing reviewers will consider is how well the proposal addresses one of the conference themes. And you see them listed on the screen here. Submitters are asked to clearly identify which theme their proposal fits into. This is in the online submission form. The simplest way to think about these themes is that they address the present state of SBCC, the future of SBCC, and growth of the SBCC field through collaboration. So, for example, abstracts under the first theme, catalyzing transformational change on agendas of urgency, should be about what research and program experience tell us about what works to create an impact, particularly on issues that affect the world on a large scale. These issues include such things as climate change, humanitarian crises, social and racial justice, pandemic response, and many more. What do we know that makes significant progress against these challenges? That's the first theme. Abstracts under the second theme, future forward, should address potentially important new technologies, new approaches, new methods, any kind of innovation that has promise to produce better SBCC outcomes in the future. What challenges are looming that require new solutions? Abstracts under the third theme, connecting the dots, should address how we can collaborate and coordinate with each other across disciplinary boundaries, across sectors, across stakeholder groups, and other configurations to achieve more together. How can we foster collective action? Are there new models for collaboration? So those give you just a few ideas of what these themes may cover. Reviewers will consider how well your abstract addresses the theme that you identify as your focus. And if you look at the website through the link here, you can see more detailed information about these themes and some potential sub-themes that you might consider to include in your abstract. Next slide, please. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the session formats to give you an idea of the different kinds of sessions that will be available at the summit. So the second thing to think about as you prepare your abstract is what format is most appropriate to convey your content. There will actually be 7 types of sessions at the summit, and a team of reviewers will be assigned to each format. The first format is oral presentations and poster presentations. I'll sort of talk about them separately. Oral presentations are the traditional conference format. Typically, 3 to 4 people are grouped by the program committee according to an underlying theme, and each will speak for about 10 to 12 minutes using slides if they wish, PowerPoint presentations if they wish, followed by discussion led by a moderator. Poster presentations occur in large sessions in an exhibition hall once or twice a day, and presenters stand by their poster during a designated period and discuss their work with people who come by. The image here shows what a typical poster presentation looks like. So you can choose to submit your presentation as an oral or as a poster presentation if you like, but after the review decisions are made, some people who submit an oral presentation may be asked to present in a poster session instead, depending on how much space and how many sessions we're able to manage for the oral presentations. Next format is the preformed panels. Preformed panels consist of 3 to 4 related presentations submitted together by a single submitter on behalf of the group to address an issue that they have in common. This could be a theme or an issue related to a particular development, social behavior change topic. It could be an issue related to methodologies or program approaches. But you should note that because we can accept only a limited number of preformed panels in the program, proposals for this format should provide exceptional value in terms of how the separate presentations complement each other and produce insights that are not possible from the individual presentations. So the interaction, the complementarity, the synthesis across the speakers is an essential element of these abstracts. The next type of format is comm talks. These are short 10-minute presentations in the form of the famous TED Talks that most of you are familiar with. The topic should be something that is new or surprising, something that challenges the status quo or presents a compelling new argument, a new way of thinking about well-established and accepted ideas. Comm talks should be presented as a narrative, as a story, rather than in a formal or academic lecture format. And these typically would not have any kind of graphic presentation, any kind of slide presentation behind them. The next type of format is a skills building workshop. These are designed and proposed by a submitter to provide participants with an opportunity to develop new and to strengthen existing skills in particular SBCC areas. Submitters should think creatively about workshop formats. If you have a skill you would like to teach others, these should be structured to ensure maximum opportunity for audience engagement and interactivity and learning, such as hands-on practice with the skills that you're trying to teach. And each of these sessions is 2 hours long at the maximum. The next type is format is a multimedia showcase. These sessions will consist of individual presentations that are grouped together, again, by the program committee, based on some underlying theme or approach. And they provide a forum for listening, viewing, and interacting with multimedia products or materials of all types used in SBCC programs. It can be all types of media, online, animated stuff, films, music, theatrical performance, street theater, any kind of format is fair game for this. In this format, each presenter will have 15 minutes to explain their multimedia product and to show up to 7 minutes of that media product, followed by group discussion led by a moderator. There is an option for longer format multimedia products, and you can read about those on the conference website. Finally, the last format is the blue sky session. These provide a forum for outside the box group discussion about a topic or issue that is emerging or very exciting for our field, but for which evidence may not yet be completely available. So similar to a preformed panel, submitters will propose 4 to 5 people who have been thinking about or struggling with a particular topic or issue, but each of them will have only 2 to 3 minutes to introduce a provocative statement about their thinking and unanswered questions related to the topic or the issue of the session. And then they will engage each other and the audience in discussion and debate about those questions, moderated by a moderator. Again, you can find more detail about these abstract formats on the Summit website, and we can answer some of your questions at the end of this webinar. Finally, today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the general criteria for review. As you prepare your abstract in one of the formats that I've just described, you should keep in mind some of the things that reviewers will be looking for. Each reviewer, when they review a proposal, will use a preset scoring system, and they will score your abstract according to the following criteria. First of all, they will look at how well your abstract matches one of the conference themes. So you should be very clear about that and prepare your abstract in a way that makes clear how it supports or addresses one of those themes. They will score your abstract in terms of how relevant it is to SBCC practice or research, and how important that topic is to the field. They will score your abstract on how clearly it is written, how clearly the ideas are presented, and how well they are supported by evidence and experience, how sound the conclusions or perspectives are based on what we know and what your own work has demonstrated about that topic. They will rate your abstract on the degree to which it provides new insights, new perspectives, or new opportunities for the field. They will also rate your abstract on how strong the potential is for audiences to learn something, to experience something new from your presentation, to share knowledge and skills, to engage in discussion and debate. So all of these things will be considered when the reviewers rate your abstract. And then we'll use those ratings to rank order and prioritize the abstracts and make decisions about which ones to select for the conference. Finally, you should consider how appropriate the abstract format that you are submitting to is for what you want to share. And in the case of skills building workshops, for example, how much logistic facilitation will the conference need to provide in order for that to be successful? So do consider how your format will be implemented. I think those are the main highlights, Stephanie. Thank you for your attention, and we can entertain questions at the end of this session if you have any, if there's any clarification needed on these points. Thank you.
Doug, thank you so much for that very interesting presentation. The next person up is Lisa Fulda. She is a senior research coordinator with CCP and has been working with the summit since 2019, largely with the program subcommittee. She has also served as an abstract reviewer and will be presenting here some tips on creating a competitive abstract for submission and consideration for the summit. Lisa?
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and hello to everyone who's joined us. It really is thrilling to see this great participation and interest in the coming summit. Some of you on the call had submitted and were planning to attend the summit in 2020. And I'd like to address that group for just a moment because many have posed the question, I submitted an abstract in 2020. Do I have to submit again for 2022? And the answer is yes. If you submitted an abstract for the summit's 2020 date, you must submit again this year in order to be considered for participation. Due to the postponement of the summit, previously submitted abstracts are now a couple of years old. You're more than welcome to submit something on the same research or project as you did before, ensuring that any updates have been made to show why it is still relevant today. Slide, please. I also just want to make a note about languages for submission. Our online platform can accommodate English, Spanish, or French for abstract submissions, but the software we're using is unable to accept abstracts in Arabic. You're therefore encouraged to submit in English, Spanish, or French if possible, but if you'd like to submit in Arabic, please reach out to the conference organizers at the email on the screen. info@sbccsummit.org. This is only for Arabic. The submission deadline remains the same no matter which language you use, so please plan accordingly. March 14th, 2022. Slide. Now let's get down to the mechanics of a strong abstract. For our purposes, a session abstract and a session proposal are the same thing, and I will be using those words interchangeably. The most basic definition of an abstract is a powerful summary of what you've done. The summary should be concise and allow for a quick understanding of your program or research and its importance. Remember that for most proposals, for this summit and for other opportunities, you don't submit any supporting documents, only the information on the submission form. So it's critical that the abstract makes sense all by itself. In a sense, an abstract is like a sales pitch. An abstract needs to efficiently cover a great deal of information convincingly in a limited amount of space. Let's look more closely at the elements of an abstract. The basic components of any abstract are the introduction, what is it about? The methods, what did you do? How did you do it? The results, what was learned? And the discussion and conclusion. What does it mean and why is it important? Slide, please. There are several questions you can ask yourself that help guide abstract development. Number one, why is your work important? Why should we care about the problem and the results? What is the scope or the scale of the issue? Who is impacted and in what ways? Often these questions help guide the program or the research in its inception. They also need to be reflected in the abstract. You can also think about what is the purpose or the objective of your program? What problem are you trying to solve? And who is your audience? Another one is, what were the components of your intervention? What was your approach? The extent of your involvement? And was it an innovation? Also, what were the results? Be sure to include meaningful evidence and data, whether qualitative or quantitative, on reach and impact. You'll need to explain the implications and speak to global relevance. Finally, for the SBCC Summit, it's very important to clearly articulate a link to one of the summit themes. How does the work contribute to our understanding of catalyzing change, the role of social behavior change communication in the future, or improving coordination and collaboration, connecting those dots? Slide, please. When you've thought through these questions, you have the material to build out the structure of your abstract under the headings I mentioned previously. The introduction, which covers your purpose, the methods, which addresses procedures and techniques, results, your major findings, and discussions or conclusions, where you pull it all together to point to the impact of your work. This will form the basis of your abstract, which you should continue to rework, refine, and revise. Be strategic about providing details or context to ensure that your abstract can stand alone. We recommend that you draft it outside of the online platform, being mindful of the word limits as you work. This will make the editing process easier until it is ready to submit. Slide, please. Over the next few slides, I'll share some tips you can use. Before you submit, you'll want to run through these to ensure you have a very competitive abstract. Tip number one speaks for itself. Start early. Give yourself time for several rounds of revision. You don't want to rush this process. Tip number two is to read the proposal and abstract submission guidelines thoroughly. And for each format, since as Dr. Story mentioned, the criteria vary a little bit by session type. Highlight it, memorize it, follow it. Let the call for proposals be your guide. Tip number three links to number two, in that you want to make sure you're clear on the requirements. Ask questions if you don't understand something or need clarification. You can always send your questions to the summit organizers through our email. And tip number 4, I mentioned briefly during the considerations section above, but be sure to keep this in mind throughout the process. Consider your audience. Are they implementers, researchers, funders? What do they want to know? Slide, please. Tip number 5 is to follow the ABCs of a great abstract. You want to ensure accuracy of the information you include, brevity, making sure you're getting right to the point, and clarity, using simple language. This helps to ensure reviewers and ultimately conference goers understand your work. Do your best to remove jargon so your evidence can easily be understood by all. Tip number 6 is often a favorite. Be bold and compelling. You want to be upfront about both successes and failures. It gives you an opportunity to present next steps for your work and discuss the implications of your work for the field. This will pique interest in what you've done and helps reviewers and conference goers make connections to what they're working on and to other areas of the field. Slide, please. Tip number 7, be specific about results and findings. The abstract should not be abstract. The summit reviewers are especially interested in evidence and understanding what works. Provide concrete findings and be sure to link those findings into your discussions. Tip number 8 is to take advantage of the allotted space to give evidence, data, examples that can strengthen your abstract. You have to be strategic on what evidence you include given the space limitations. So be judicious in your language and also be thoughtful about what type of session you choose to most appropriately present your work. Slide, please. Tip number 9, check your grammar. Use active verbs. You want to reduce abbreviations. Clarify any acronyms that you use, since not everyone may be familiar with them, and avoid first-person pronouns. I want to emphasize this last one briefly, since this is a common pitfall. The abstract is about the research or program and its contribution to the field of SBCC. It's not about the people who implemented it. So be sure that you are talking about the work. Tip number 10 is review, review, review. It is your responsibility as the author and submitter to submit a correct abstract. Don't be afraid to ask colleagues or friends to review and ask questions to make sure that their understanding and your language can reach a wide audience. I would also recommend reading it out loud. This often can help you catch errors that might sound dissonant to your own ear. So a close read of the call for abstracts plus these tips and tricks should help you create a powerful and concise statement about the importance of your work to share with others at the summit. I have one brief slide about the submission process. And I'll just make a note here that a video will be sent out to everyone who registered for the webinar and will also be posted to our website that will describe the process in detail. A few overview steps are listed here, including, as I mentioned before, creating your abstract ahead of time. But I also want to highlight using the criteria and guidelines from the site. Again, since those vary slightly, it's really important to pay attention to your format. Be sure you save your work as you go. You are able to save a draft before you hit the submit button. And abstracts will be reviewed on a rolling basis. You'll get an email confirming once you have submitted. So thanks so much for your attention. Please continue to add questions into the Q&A so that we can address them at the end. And with that, I'll hand it back to Stephanie.
Thank you, Lisa. That was terrific. Our next speaker is Leanne Wolf, who is one of the co-chairs of the SBCC Summit Secretariat and a program officer here at CCP. Leanne?
Great, thanks for the introduction, Stephanie. So we're really excited to have things rolling and to learn about all of the exciting work going on around the world. Now that you have a better idea of the abstract format, I want to make a few last points and provide a few next steps for you as a writer and for developing a strong abstract for the 2022 summit. You're going to want to go back and review the conference themes. These are available on the website, as Doug mentioned earlier, along with the subthemes. You want to make sure that your abstract really aligns and demonstrates one of those themes. We discussed the importance of selecting the appropriate session format for your abstract. Based on what you heard today, you may want to look back and make sure you selected the best format to tell your story. Keep your abstract concise and focused, and find out what makes it different from all the other abstracts that will be submitted. And of course, submit your abstract by the due date. Next slide, please. So we are looking for people to review abstracts. We are anticipating hundreds of abstracts, and we would like to have 3 reviewers for each. We would love to have a broad global representation from different organizations and areas of practice. So please consider volunteering to help us with this important task. When you submit an abstract, you will automatically be registered as a reviewer. When submitting, we'll ask for your area of expertise and what you feel you're qualified to review. We will be on the lookout for potential conflicts of interest. If you do not want to review, you may opt out at the time of submission. Each reviewer will be asked to review roughly 10 submissions. Depending on the type of abstract, each will be approximately 500 words in length, and guidance will be provided to each reviewer on how to review the abstract. Next slide, please. So while we are looking at different hybrid options for the summit, at this point in the planning process, all abstracts will need to be presented in person in Morocco. We continue to monitor the situation, and if things should change, you will be the first to know. The deadline for submission, just a reminder, is Monday, March 14th. All abstracts must be submitted by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or March 15th at 3:59 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time or Coordinated Universal Time. Please plan accordingly, mark your calendars, and maybe even plan to submit a little early to avoid that rush. We expect to send notifications out of decisions in June. Next slide, please. And finally, I want to give a very special thanks to the members of our subcommittees, the International Steering Committee, and our Secretariat members from the organizations listed above on the slide. And most importantly, thank you to each of you for giving life to the summit. We thank you for your interest. We look forward to safely gathering in Morocco this December. And I would like to pass it back over to Stephanie so that we can begin question and answers.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you to all the speakers. This has been extremely informative. I also want to thank all of you who have attended. We've counted people from at least 50 countries, and so it's really heartening to see that. So the first question, we have a reminder that questions need to be submitted in the Q&A section. We have been answering some of the questions that have easy answers as we've gone along. So if you go to the answered tab, you can see some of the answers. The first question that I want to, and this is for Doug, for the oral and poster presentations, are we able to use visual aids during the presentation, such as a PowerPoint presentation showing examples of media used and the approach?
Yes, oral presentations typically do use some slide presentation to illustrate the points that you're making. Yes.
Terrific. Let's see. One big question we've gotten that I've been answering in the chat is that we will be sending the recording and the slides to everybody who registered for the event. So that is a positive. Let me see. Here's a question. for Leanne, is there a limit to how many abstracts can be submitted by a single individual?
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. So there is no limitation to the number of abstracts that you can submit. Where the limitation will be is when we finalize the selection, we will make sure that you are not presenting the primary presenter on more than 2 abstracts. So submit away, but just know that you would not be selected for more than 2.
Terrific. I see a question here that I can answer. It said, what could be the length of an abstract/session? The information on that is in the submission guidelines and also in the where you would submit your guideline or submit your abstract. Lisa, given the blind review process, does the abstract avoid referencing specific organizations?
That is a great question, but no, I think it is perfectly okay. The submitting author will be asked what organization they represent, and we will do our best to ensure objectivity. So Dr. Story and I help coordinate that, and we look to assign people to things where they do not have an affiliation. So there are enough reviewers that there should be the opportunity for someone who is not part of a project or a research endeavor to have connections. So they will be a separate and objective review.
Thank you, Lisa. This is, I think, for Leanne. What is the sponsorship process?
This is a famous question, I think one of the favorites. So just to clarify quickly, when we talk about sponsorship, we are talking about the money that you would like to give to us to support the summit. So we do have scholarships. Unfortunately, at this point, we do not have any openings. We are shifting over our scholars from the last recipients, but we are looking for additional funding to hopefully open that up again, and we would send that notification out through the listserv. So if we are able to offer more scholarships, you guys will be the first to know. So.
Thank you, Leanne. Doug, will abstracts always be accepted for the same type of presentation format we propose? For example, if we choose to do an oral presentation, is it possible that the summit committee will choose it as a poster?
If you submit an oral presentation abstract, it will be reviewed as an oral presentation. Once the abstracts are all reviewed and scored and rank ordered according to score, the program committee will decide where the cutoff point needs to be, depending on how many presentations we are able to accommodate in the conference spaces and the time slots that are available. If there are oral presentations that were scored well, but we don't have enough space to accommodate them in oral presentation sessions, the program committee may contact you and ask you if you are willing to present it as a poster presentation. So you may be given that option. And some people prefer a poster presentation to an oral presentation because it allows you to have more direct one-on-one discussion, conversation with people who are interested in your work. So anyway, we encourage people to think, not to think of poster presentations as some kind of second class contribution to the conference. But if you prefer an oral presentation, you should submit it in that format. And if it is well reviewed and well scored, and we have enough space to accommodate it, we will do that. But we may ask some people to consider converting their oral presentation to a poster.
Thank you, Doug. This question is also, I think, for you. Can I submit an abstract for an intervention where results are expected at the end of May?
Yes, if you are working on a project that will be evaluated sometime between the submission deadline and the beginning of the conference, You should write about that in your abstract. You should explain, when you expect to have data to support your presentation. And the reviewers will take into account the, how likely it is that you will be able to produce those results before the conference. So you should describe that if that will be the case, and the reviewer will take that into consideration.
Thank you, Doug. We had a question here about whether we will be posting the webinar and slides on the webpage, and the answer to that one is yes. So somebody was, let's see, we had a question about Leanne, we're interested in submitting a skills building workshop. Is there a maximum number of workshop facilitators for the session we submit?
We have not been asked that previously. I would say no. There is a limitation on time, so I would plan accordingly. So obviously you don't want 20 skills building people, but if you have, if your session includes kind of 5 small breakout groups, and that need 5 facilitators for each of those groups, then that seems to make sense. So I think if the facilitation matches the actual session, that's probably what is most important.
And Leanne, oh, go ahead, sorry.
So
Leanne, I wanted to ask another question. I don't know if this is for you or for Doug. I've seen a call for manuscripts for the Journal of Health Communication, and also saw that this special edition is related to the summit. Can one submit an abstract for the summit as well as a manuscript for the journal on the same project/study?
And I'm going to hand that over to Doug, because Doug is leading that the journal process, the manuscript process. So
no, I don't recommend that. If for some reason perhaps you don't plan to or will be unable to join the summit, you might consider the journal option as an alternate. Generally the rule of thumb is that conference presentations should not be content that has been previously published somewhere else. So if you submit something to the Journal of Health Communication and it is accepted for publication, it would be considered inappropriate for you to present an abstract based on that published article. So I would not encourage you to do both.
Terrific. I have a couple more questions sort of in this realm for you, Doug. One is it crucial for the results to be quantitative, or would qualitative be okay, especially for a programmatic submission?
Yes, qualitative data are perfectly acceptable. We know that there are lots of ways of studying and evaluating programs, so any kind of evidence is acceptable, as long as it does speak to the program experience, to the results of the program, and makes it clear how that qualitative evidence supports the conclusions. So any kind of evidence is acceptable, yes.
Terrific. Another question is, are systematic review methodologies accepted?
Yes.
Great. And one more this is about Blue Sky. How will Blue Sky presentation members be selected? Is it by the reviewers, or members have to identify themselves for the abstract before submitting?
Blue Sky sessions are similar to preformed panels in the sense that the person submitting the proposal will identify the speakers for that session. So if you have an idea for a Blue Sky topic, something that's provocative, that's new, that really challenges the field, and you can identify usually 3 to 4 people who have been working on that area, on that topic, have been thinking about it hard, and would like to share their thoughts and engage the group in conversation about that. Yes, as a submitter, you would propose those people for the Blue Sky session. But in doing that, and this comment actually applies to both Blue Sky and to preformed panels, Think carefully about the diversity of perspectives that are represented on the panel. If you propose a preform panel or you propose a blue sky session, think carefully about whether those participants, the panelists, represent different perspectives, different voices, different organizations, different perspectives, because that will be more interesting to the reviewers than if they all represent a single project or kind of a single way of approaching a challenge.
Thank you, Doug. One more. Is an abstract that may not have impact in terms of reach, but more of engagement of communities acceptable as evidence?
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you. Leanne, can the conference have online speakers, or should speakers attend live in Morocco?
Yes, so at this point, we are exploring hybrid options. We're looking at this point to be only streaming out. So if you do get accepted, we would expect you to be able to be in Morocco. Obviously, COVID is our deciding factor there in the end, and we continue to monitor that situation, and we'll let you know if something changes. But for now, yes, please plan to be present in Morocco if you are a presenter.
And this is another one that's sort of similar, but I think it speaks to something you can help with. Can you speak briefly on the attendance requirement for accepted submissions? If an abstract is accepted, can the presenters change if needed?
So yes and no. If you submit a presenter, let's say you submit a presenter for someone, one of your team members in the DRC, we would expect that you would not change that speaker to someone who is sitting, say, in Washington, DC. So we are not making changes in that way. But if they align with kind of the developing, underdeveloped kind of, I'm not answering very clearly, sorry. So we are taking speakers from around the world. We have speakers from lower middle income countries, and we have speakers from higher income countries. We do not want higher income speakers to replace lower income, mid-income country speakers. But if you can change within the category that you're registered, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Leanne. Actually, and I have two questions sort of around visas. One question I believe was about whether we'll provide a letter to someone to help them get a visa, and also what other kind of help we can give in receiving a visa. This says, for example, Morocco will not issue a visa for some countries like Iran.
So visas are always a tough one. We do have a partner that we work with who will be able to provide a visa, a letter of invitation and visa letter for you. That's what we did for the 2020, in preparation for the 2020. As far as countries that are not permitted to enter Morocco, I think we would have to explore that with on a case-by-case basis with maybe some of our government counterparts in Morocco. Unfortunately, that's not really something we can control. I think we will be happy to look into it should we need to, but yeah.
Thank you. This also is for you, Leanne. Will simultaneous translation be available at the conference site? And if so, what languages?
Yes, so we will have simultaneous translation in select rooms. It will not be all of the session rooms. I believe we are providing about 10 rooms that will have simultaneous translation, and those will be in French, Spanish, and Arabic.
Terrific, thank you. Here's a question that I've asked some people to help me answer. Can you share a bit more about the historical data on the number of abstracts /submitted received vis-a-vis how many are accepted? Is there a predetermined target /limit per session format? So my understanding is that for the 2020 summit that was postponed, we received about 1,200 abstracts, and we had selected about 300 350 abstracts and other submissions. And also that the program committee will decide sort of whether there's a limit per session or what the limit will be per session. I was also
Stephanie,
asked, go ahead.
Sorry, Stephanie, this is Doug. The percentage, the accepted percentage varies by session format, of course, and we try to maximize opportunities for participation. That's why because we receive so many oral presentation abstracts, we try to accommodate as many of those as possible. And one way to do that is to offer the option of a poster presentation for some people. So they are able to share their work with the conference, but we do it in a slightly different format. I think there are a couple of questions in the chat about in the Q&A about this issue, and I've tried to make it clear that we will occasionally ask someone to consider presenting in a different format. That largely applies to the oral versus poster distinction. We would not typically ask someone to change from an oral presentation to a multimedia presentation, for example.
Thank you, Doug.
But if you have questions about which format is appropriate for your abstract, please contact the organizing committee ahead of time before you submit, so we can help you make that make the best decision about that.
Thank you. I have been reminded of two things. One is that visa information is on the website, and also that I wanted to also remind you that some of the questions we're answering live here, but I see that if already 40 questions have been answered online and in the Q&A. So if you want to check those out, if haven't come to your question yet, it might be that we've already answered it in the chat part, the Q&A section of this. Let's see, there's so many questions that I lost track of the one I was going to ask next. We have some questions about, somebody asked a question about whether they could submit a presentation as part of a pre-formed panel, and also for an individual, like the same abstract or a similar abstract as an individual presentation. Doug.
No, that should not be done. It's possible for someone who presents on a preformed panel might prepare a different oral presentation abstract on some other aspect of the same project, but the abstract should not be identical.
Thank you. Thank you. Leanne, is there any age, it says age bar for submitting an abstract? I guess, anybody can submit an abstract. Doesn't matter how old you are, right?
No, it does not matter how old you are. Obviously, if you are, we are really looking for youth participation. I think if, let's say, someone who is 15 submits an abstract and it's accepted, we would expect that someone would be traveling along with that individual to ensure their safety. So yeah, no limitations. And if you're 100, go for it. Let's see ya.
Terrific. Doug, regarding originality of submissions, apart from a version published at a journal, what is the criteria for projects/programs that have evaluation reports /progress reports, especially for practical oriented abstracts?
There is not, in international scholarship, the technical reports are not considered in the same way as peer-reviewed journal articles. So abstracts based on technical reports, evaluation reports, and so on would be acceptable to us.
Terrific. Let's see. Some of them are, if someone could, can you speak to summit side events, Leanne?
Sure, and the answer is also in the answered section, but side events will be hosted by organizations who have secured the space. So we are not necessarily hosting any pre or post conference sessions ourselves. Some of those events will be open registration. It depends on the format that the organization or individual or whoever it is who purchases that space wants to do. Some of those will be closed events. And what we did last time, we do provide kind of a final agenda, as we know, and list those on our website as they get finalized. But the PR kind of goes out by that organization itself, depending on whether it's a closed invite, an open invite, a specific audience they are looking for. But we will post them on the website when they are final.
Let's see. I have already hit submit on my abstract. Can I still edit my submission, Leanne?
You cannot. Once you hit submit, you are unable to edit your abstract. But what you can do is you can withdraw that abstract and do a new submission. So there is a save and submit later option. Until you are final, please use that. Once you hit submit, it's in our hands. So you are, please, if you don't want us to review it, please pull it out and withdraw.
Terrific. We have a couple of things about logistics, but I know we've answered in the Q&A, but I wanted to make sure that others are hearing this. So someone asked, just to reconfirm, I have paid fees for the 2020 summit. Do I have to pay again for 2022, Leanne?
If you paid for the 2020 and you kept your registration with us, so you were given an option for a refund or you were given an option to keep that registration with us with a guarantee that it would maintain the same pricing. So if you kept it with us, that will roll over. If for some reason you need to change the name of the registrant, you are welcome to do that pretty much at any point. We will end up having a deadline, I'm sure, but much closer to the summit itself. If you got a refund, requested a refund, you do not have a ticket anymore. So you will need to re-register once registration opens, and there is no guarantee that pricing structure is going to remain the same because of increased costs. So
absolutely, thank you. One more question here that I can answer, and someone asked how to get in touch with the organizing committee, and the answer to that is to please email us at info@sbccsummit.org, and we will try to get your answers for you as soon as we possibly can. It looks like we are coming up on time. If Leanne or Doug or Lisa have anything they'd like to make sure we add, please let me know.
No, I'm trying to answer as many of the questions in the Q&A as I can, but I don't think I'm going to get to all of them. We'll be able to follow up, won't we, Stephanie? And be sure that everyone receives an answer.
So people can submit questions, as I said, to the email that I just gave. So
okay, great. Thanks.
Right. And also, if you have questions, I did notice there were some questions about your hotel reservation, those sorts of things. And those questions, Leanne, those also go to info?
yes, please. I was trying to do it. I was trying to do a charades there, but it didn't work.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank our speakers and especially Mimi, who joined us from Rwanda. And I wanted to thank all of you for being here. We've had, I wasn't monitoring the number, but I think we had more than 350 people on the chat, on the program at one time. Again, we look forward, we can't wait to see what you guys are submitting for this summit. We're so excited to move the event forward, and we are looking forward to safely meeting in Morocco. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.